Hello, Patreon members. Robert Bellissimo here from Robert Bellissimo at the Movies. Once again, thank you so much for your ongoing support. And the winner this month is Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, which is the film version from 1958, which was directed and written by Richard Brooks and was adapted by the play by Tennessee Williams. So this is a movie I always enjoyed, but I don't like it nearly as much as the play. And I'm going to be doing this a little bit differently in the sense of I don't feel that I can just review this film. I have to look at it in terms of how it compares to the play. For example, in the play, Brick, who Paul Newman plays, is an ex-football player who he's just broken his leg. He's very depressed and he's an alcoholic. And the reason he's an alcoholic, for anyone who knows the play well, is because his best friend Skipper killed himself because he felt that he was a homosexual, which of course at that time it was illegal and there was a lot of shame, and people basically thought as homosexuals as perverts and people who were deranged and sick individuals and mentally ill and so on and so forth. So Brick takes to his drinking and his depression in such a way that people already thought that perhaps there was a sexual relationship between them, and not that it comes out as saying that, but it's a more ambiguous, but it makes much more sense that Brick is potentially gay, saying that he won't sleep with his wife. I mean, Maggie, his wife, is partly to blame for the fact that Skipper realized he was gay, because she slept with him because she felt that something must have been going on. So he said, okay, I'll sleep with you to prove that I'm not gay. And then obviously it proved that he was. So it's not really fair that Brick was just blaming Maggie, because I'm sure it would have come out at some point. But that's how he feels. He's unleashing all his anger on her. He won't sleep with her. He will not. He's pretending that they're basically happy and married, and so to put on with this charade in front of the family, as he calls it, mendacity, and everyone's liars and liars and liars. You certainly see that in the movie as well, but the reason that they say he is taken to drinking in such a way is that Skipper died because he felt that he couldn't grow up, and he felt that he couldn't play football without Brick. That he wasn't a good enough football player. And so it's not as strong for someone to inability to grow up or can't face growing up. And so he kills himself over it. He felt that they had always leaned on each other, Brick and Skipper. They were always best friends. They didn't have good fathers that were emotionally there for them, so they were almost childlike in a sense. And I think that that's in the play too, but they sort of took that element and explored it a lot more. There's a lengthy scene in the film in the third act, which is not in the play, where Brick and his father, Big Daddy, really have it out about the fact that his father didn't know what to love, that his way of loving was buying things and going on trips, and as it's all to Brick is a bunch of nonsense, because actually Big Daddy and his father had a great relationship, but because his father died and just left him a suitcase and his Spanish Civil War uniform, he felt that wasn't good enough, that he wanted to leave behind things for his kid, and so just buying was his way of showing love. So that's all interesting, and I'm sure that is also something that is suggested in the play. Brick's very much talking about mendacity, and that life is a bunch of lies, and he's also, again, the subtext to that in the play is very much talking about the homosexuality, lying about who you are. Everyone in the house is lying. Then he has to lie about how he feels about Maggie, and he has to lie about this and lie about that. So he's really sickened by that, which makes more sense in the play. I mean, in the film, this whole thing about lies, again, is centered much more around their feelings for each other. Everybody in the film, they're all treating each other badly. His brother Gooper and Brick, they don't get along. This Maggie and May, the sister-in-laws, they don't get along as well. They talk about their kids badly. May makes fun of Maggie because her husband won't sleep with her anymore, and that she can't have kids. So they're quite awful with each other, but everyone kind of carries on. And they have parties together, they have family gatherings together, so they were centering much more around this element of mendacity in terms of how they of the way in which they show their relationships on the surface, but really that everyone has different feelings for each other and people feel unfulfilled. And again, that is certainly true, but they really, Richard Brooks, who adapted this, of course this is in the time of the Hays Code, he would have had to have taken any really strong suggestion, which is really in the play, about the fact that Brick and Skipper were lovers, or that they, or not necessarily that they were lovers, but they had strong love feelings for each other that they didn't follow up on. So, it's disappointing when you see the film, having known the play for that reason. They've actually adapted it on television for television movies. With Laurence Olivier did one with Natalie Wood, Billy Jones, and Rip Torn, and Jessica Lange, which is also really good, and from the 80s and 70s. And it's been adapted again on Broadway. It's been done in an all-black cast in London, which I believe now they're doing that into another film version. And I certainly feel that it definitely needs an updated feature film version, not a television film, but a feature film version, because this original just does not do the play justice. It needed to be much more specific than, well, he felt that Brick, he couldn't play football without Brick, so his football career must be over, and therefore he's gonna kill himself over it. It just didn't work very well, and I think that's why Richard Brooks really had that other scene with Big Daddy, where they kind of just skimmed over why Brick is drinking, and then centering is so much more around the relationships. It's very cleaned up. It's very, in the play, it's true that Brick and Big Daddy come to some sort of terms with each other where they have an understanding of what went wrong between them and what went wrong with the family, but they don't resolve it necessarily. They don't necessarily talk it out and forgive each other or anything. Whereas in the play, in the film version, at the end you see when Maggie says that she's pregnant, which is a lie, and that's also in the film because it's something Big Daddy would have wanted. They all know he was dying at that point. He had cancer. That was another part of the play. So that of course is in the film as well. But then Brick, it takes Maggie upstairs and sleeps with her to make the lie true. And in the play, it ends on a much more ambiguous note where she says, "I love you, Brick." And Brick says, "Wouldn't it be funny if that were true?" Because he doesn't believe that she loves him. He believes that they had a strong sexual chemistry, but nothing more than that. She also, Maggie, and this is in the film, was someone who came from poverty. And so it makes you wonder if the fact that Brick came from a wealthy family is why she was attracted to him. So there's nothing really between them other than sex and lust, and that's really in the play. Whereas here, they're making it seem like Brick is totally in love with her, and the only reason he's mad at her is because of Skipper, and once he cleared up that problem, he stops drinking and he's fine and everything's okay. It's Hollywood, it's very commercial and cleaned up, but I do like it. I know Paul Newman was not a fan of it because it was not nearly as good as the play. Tennessee Williams was appalled to the point where I believe you went into lineups in movie theaters to tell people not to see it. He was very vocal that he did not like it, that it set back the industry 50 years in his opinion. Obviously, he was hoping that this would break some barriers. The only thing that is somewhat suggested that they had a homosexual relationship or romantic feelings towards each other in the film is when Brick says there was nothing sick about our relationship, which is something, he says something along those lines, which is in the play, because he feels that Big Daddy is alluding to that, and he's like, there's nothing wrong with our relationship, and they have a couple of lines about that, and that's much more in the play. That really sets Brick off, because he himself, whether he's gay or not, has these because they were taught to be homophobic. He talks about his hatred towards gay people, and that he's sickened by it, and that there was nothing wrong with our relationship. We just had a pure friendship, and there's nothing sick about that. So again, there was maybe one or two lines about that in the film. It's just, if anything, Richard Brooks was perhaps making it as coded as he could, that's really what's going on. But I don't think anyone then would have really read that much into it, because, like I said, it's skimmed over so fast and it focuses so much more on the relationships. But the performances are great. Burl Ives, who did it on Broadway, he was a fantastic as Big Daddy. Paul Newman was a fantastic Brick. I mean, I would love to have, if he had done it on the stage. It was originally with Ben Gazzara, who apparently was great on Broadway, and he was supposed to do the film, but then I believe they went with Paul Newman because they can get a bigger movie star. At that time, he was known in the theater, and he had done some film work, Ben Gazzara, but he was not a big Hollywood star, so he lost out on the role. Elizabeth Taylor, of course, was another big movie star, didn't do the play, and she, of course, but was a great Maggie. I mean, I think everybody, when they think of these roles, even though, like I said, the television versions from the 70s and 80s were much better, they weren't cast, I mean, they were cast well, but you always think, at least I do, Elizabeth Taylor and Paul Newman, they seem, perfectly adapt at natural for these parts, because Brick being an ex-football player, and Paul Newman has that, macho, jockish quality, but yet a very sensitive and vulnerable, the eyes of someone who's been through something. Even though it's those beautiful blue eyes, he looks like he's someone who's seen a lot of things and has a sadness about him. And of course, Elizabeth Taylor has that, sexy and fury and sex-starved woman who's unhappy and not loved by her husband, but ultimately truly loves him. They were both really born for it, I felt. I thought Jessica Lange and Natalie Wood were also really, really good, but you can't help but think of Elizabeth Taylor. She just was natural as this southern young woman in this part. So if you haven't seen it, I do suggest it, just because it's enjoyable, but it's also really good to understand that why it was adapted the way it was, why they took out some of the most essential elements of the characters' motivations and why what the characters are going through. I don't think it's fair to only know the film, because the play is just so incredible. It would be like, altering Hamlet, that Hamlet is killing his uncle for nothing to do with his father's death or something along those lines. I mean, you really gotta know the play in order to understand why the movie was made the way it did. So I suggest it. I enjoy it, and it was something we put up because we felt it's worthy to be seen. But like I said, check out the ones from the 1970s, the Natalie Wood one and the Jessica Lange one. Jessica Lange one, sorry, is from '84. You can find those both on YouTube as well. Thanks so much, folks, and I will be back with some more bonus content very soon for you all. See you soon.